keys in this idea of connection is as you walk away from this session, when you think about how are you going to get people engaged and excited, it's going to be less about kind of what you're saying, how excited you're getting. That's going to be important. But where you need to connect is what does it mean for them? Great, we're having this big product launch. I'm really excited that Bill's excited about it. But what do people really think about? What does it mean to me? So you have to think about all the people on your team. How can you make this meaningful to them? Roger talked about being meaning makers. Even if they're not involved directly in the project, how can you make this exciting for them? Make them feel relevant, important. That's what, I mean, when you guys were talking a little earlier about your exceptional leaders made you feel like you were relevant, important, you mattered, you meant something. That's what an exceptional leader does when they connect. So if you're going to be successful at motivating and inspiring the rest of this organization, it's going to have a lot to do with intelligently managing emotions, both your own and all the people that you work with. Now, how many here, put your hand up if you've heard of the concept of emotional intelligence, or EQ. Okay, keep your hand up if you have any. Well, we'll figure that one out a little bit later. What we are going to talk about is leveraging this concept of emotional intelligence in order to cultivate and create that power to win culture. Now, how many of you are sitting there thinking, oh boy, emotional intelligence, this is going to be some kind of kumbaya, soft and squishy type session, right? Well, what Wes didn't mention in my introduction is that I have degrees in mathematics and computer science. I'm not that guy. Notice there's no Kleenex boxes on your tables. Okay? What I'm interested in, I'm an analytical by nature. I'm a former PL1 and COBOL programmer, and I know some of you know what that's all about. I want to know the research and the science behind something before I'm really going to engage it and apply it. So the approach we're going to take to this concept of managing emotions, which is so important for you, is going to be a more analytical and scientific approach. Reduce how much working memory you have. It will reduce your ability to think a complex thought. Have you ever heard yourself say, I was so angry I couldn't think straight? Have you ever had that difficult conversation with a partner or spouse and 20 minutes later thought of all the good comebacks? Right? Because in that moment, you were triggered and you couldn't think a complex thought. Or in a business setting, you're presenting an idea on how you'd like the change to work, and someone's really, a senior person is maybe sort of really criticizing your idea, and you can't articulate a good response, and after the meeting you think, oh, I should have said this and I should have said that. You know, you get that email that kind of frustrates you, and you go, type, 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 reply to all. Right? It's like, recall, recall. Recall doesn't work. I don't know why there's a recall. There's no recall. It doesn't work. So, when you see someone becoming more commanding in tone, becoming more directive, for me, one of my defaults, if I'm in a meeting and it's not going the way I want it to, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed and I have a lot to do, and somebody's taking a long time to explain something, that person that you ask them what time it is and they tell you how to build a watch, right? My default behavior is to interrupt them. Well, now, does that get me on their poor leader list or their exceptional leader list when I interrupt them? It gets me on their poor leader list. Again, an emotion is driving a behavior and it's having an impact. I'm not aware of it. I can't manage it. Is this hard? Why is it that sometimes smart people fail? You probably all have met people either here at NASA or you've met people that you went to college with who were just super bright. I know a few. And you thought, they're going to be the next, leader of the command control center or whatever it is. And they don't do that well. An inability to manage change. Now, I know you don't have much change going on here at NASA, do you? No, you've got an incredible amount of change. By the way, in terms of the impact of change, I love the story of the astronauts who don't like the badge situation. These are individuals who can handle an incredible amount of pressure, who have been through some of the most challenging, uncertain, times in their lives, yet a new badge system throws them off. You see how change affects us? Isn't it just amazing? The question is, how will you respond to this challenge? Are you going to get frustrated, get negative, kind of give up? Or are you going to step up and play a big game? How will you manage those emotions to get performance? And there's no better place to see the impact of emotions on performance than in sports. So for those of you at the golf tournament yesterday, you see one of those guys hit a bad shot and all the pros do. Are they walking up to the next one, beating themselves up about that bad shot, right? Frustrated?
And if they are, how good are they going to be at hitting the next shot? It's going to be tough. You all know that. Now, my company, IHHP, in addition to working with sales teams like yourselves, we work with executives of Fortune 500 companies, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Army. We also work with elite and Olympic athletes. And we've been to the last 4 Olympic Games. Here's what's interesting. During the 2-week period of the Olympic Games, there are more world records set than in the previous 4 years. Makes sense, right? The competition goes up, the pressure goes up, you get best performance. Here's what's really interesting. During that same 2-week period, there are more personal worsts set than in the previous 4 years. Interesting, isn't it? Some athletes, all of whom have trained for a specific behavior all their lives, face that tension, that pressure, and they fall apart. Some of them fall apart. It gets them. Others excel. This is your opportunity to take this challenging situation and make that choice to manage that emotion to get great performance.
That you're all going to walk out of here, and the next month is going to be very exciting. You're going to take this energy, and it's going to be a really exciting product launch. Where I think your real challenge is, it's in the 2 months after that, and the 6 months after that, and the 12 months after that. When the product doesn't work perfectly, and a channel person calls in complaining, and the service person didn't respond because the salesperson didn't follow the proper procedure, and the product person can't fix it because there's no budget. And that's the stuff, when it gets hard, when it gets challenging, when some of that legacy stuff starts unearthing itself, that's where your real challenge is going to be. And that's where managing emotions is going to be critical. People, when they go to influence, engage, coach, they lead from their side of the bridge. They lead from their passion, their knowledge, their enthusiasm, their authority. And if you're pretty passionate and pretty knowledgeable and pretty smart, you can get a lot of people to jump. I mean, you know, as a leader, I did get some people to jump. But at some point, there's something going on for that other person that can cause them not to jump. And you can see they're not going to. Great leaders, people who really influence change, they can lead from the other side of the bridge. And it's exactly what Dr. Chell talked about, and I don't know whether he shared it with you. I hope you don't mind me sharing it, but he said as he's gone through this process, he had an aha about what this whole transformation is really all about. It's about empathy. It's about understanding what is going on for those other people in that transplant center, that donor center, or whatever part of this network you're part of. Can you connect and understand what's going on for other people and walk them back? Because when people feel heard, when they have a voice, when they feel valued and understood, then they engage. Then they're less likely to resist.